Hello. It's so awkward. I don't know. I feel like the moment I hit record, my brain just turns off. Um, that's definitely not how I'm supposed to start this, but I want you to know I appreciate you. I love the fact that you're here. I love all the support that we've gotten as a community as a whole, and it just makes me feel happy to know that at least I'm doing something right. If 10,000 of you have like clicked that button, um, maybe either with like high hopes of, I don't know, whatever you think I might be creating in the future. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like awesome to know that we have so much support here, both for each and every one of you individually, but also for me as a person. Because it's not easy creating these scripts, thinking about, okay, what are different takes that I want to switch up perspectives on, same ideas that you all may have been used to. I love the fact that everybody loves to comment, they love to share their experiences, and honestly, it's one of the most wholesome and like beautiful things. I come home and I'm like excited to read a comment, because you're there and you have no idea how much happier excuse my English. You have no idea how happy that has made me as a person to know that, all this effort, all this time, it means something, not just to me, but for all of you. Um, and if, you don't get any of that from my videos, that's cool too. If you're just rocking for entertainment, that's also awesome too. I appreciate you for being here. First things first, before we start the Q&A, I just want to shout out everybody who supported me on Patreon. You guys are awesome. Shout out to that one active member. You know who you are. I appreciate you being there because you make this all worth it. You make me want to continue because it's obvious that, you want to engage with the content and you want to be able to support it in any way that you can. So shout out to you. You know who you are. Really, really, really absolutely grateful for that. Now, as far as goes Q&A, it's going to be pretty straightforward. We're not doing anything drastic or crazy. Essentially, I'm just going to read down a list of questions that I've chosen that I think I'd be okay answering. And we'll just go through and hopefully I can be as candid and, open as possible. So, yeah, I appreciate you being here. So, let's just get started because I don't feel like trying to re-record this again. So first things first, we got a total of about 20 questions, I would say, maybe 21. We're going to start off with question number 1, which is, with whom would you like to be stranded on an island with? Let's see. Honestly, if I'm thinking in terms of survival, I'd probably want somebody who knows what they're doing, and can pick up in the areas that I lack. So like physically, I'm got a short king out there, so I ain't got the height, but I think I can lift my own weight, carry my own weight. Pretty agile. So I think I'd need somebody in my life who can somebody who can reach the parts of trees that I absolutely would fail to. So I'd need a tall person. Yeah, the person I'm thinking of is probably my older brother. I definitely think that in terms of family, he's very close to me and family is very important to me. So if I were to be stranded on an island, it'd have to be my brother because, like, we'd work well together. All right. Question number 2. Where would you like to live in the future? That's a bit of a tricky one, and that's mainly because I've never thought about my future being in one location. For context, I'm from the United States, if it's not obvious from my accent. Essentially, I've had the opportunity to travel to quite a couple different countries, and it's been great. I've started to explore the world, expanding my perspective on what's out there, and I've always had aspirations to not necessarily have one place called home, because the world is so big, and we live in a time where there's just opportunity to go out and travel and see so many different places. So 100%, I definitely want to travel more than I want to live in one place. I'd be more like, if I could, investing in different properties across different nations and, having like mini homes in these places that I could travel whenever I'd like. I think that'd be pretty cool. Next question. What is my favorite color? That one is, it's a pretty easy one to answer for me. And that's mainly because I've always and only had one color in mind throughout my entire life. And that's sky blue. I definitely think that the sky as a whole represents a lot of past, present, future. in my perspective, mainly because I consider it as a constant throughout my life. You know, no matter how much time changes, no matter what difficulties I go through, at the end of the day, the sun will rise and the sky will still be there, just as when I was having an easier time. And that relatability of considering, you know, back then everything was okay, might be difficult now, but just think about it. The sky is still going to be the sky as long as time passes. So that's that's literally exactly why I definitely think sky blue is my favorite color. Next question. Biggest fear. Biggest fear. Honestly, I used to be so edgy, right? So I'd probably answer this question before. I'm thinking about like who I used to be. I'd for sure answer this question as, oh, I don't necessarily have a fear. If I were to create a fear, it'd be dying without a smile, because, you know, that suck. Um, Realistically speaking, I guess my biggest fear, even now, is to forget who I am. And that comes with, you know, having to have a definition of who you are as an individual, which of course is always changing the more you grow, the more you experience. But if I were to ever get to a point in my life where I'm no longer somebody who I feel like the past me could resonate with, as in I had an idea about where I was going and who I wanted to be, that's what I'm most afraid of, losing myself. I definitely think having a ground in who you are, who you want to be is very important in life, especially if, you know, you're trying to maintain long-term happiness. So that definitely would be my biggest fear. All right, this next one kind of difficult. Random fun facts about me. Let's see. I've kind of sprinkled some of these throughout my audios. Maybe you've noticed, maybe you've not if you haven't been here too long. It's all good. I love to skateboard. I've been skateboarding my entire life. Essentially it's been like my go-to sport and hobby. I love doing graphic design. Fun fact, I do all of my graphics on my videos, including this one. Which may or may not take longer than it should, given that I am not as proficient as some other people may be, but it's something I like to do. I mean, if it's not obvious, I write all my scripts, so I like poetry. I like writing. And what is a fun fact? I mean, I play Valorant a lot. I doubt anybody would actually want to watch that, but like, I've considered streaming. Fun fact. Oh, I had, I'm literally thinking about this on the spot. I had a couple different leopard geckos when I was younger. So that was my first pet. Second pet was a turtle. I'm all about reptiles. I love reptiles. It's always been like my dream to have a bunch of reptiles in the future. So we're gonna work on that. Now, let's see. Things people do that I hate. That's a tricky one. There's not really one thing in particular. No, there is actually. So I have a couple things that I absolutely hate, and that has not changed for a long time. So one thing that I really hate are people who are close-minded. I definitely think that as we grow, the more we learn, it's very important that we become open-minded, not in terms of accepting ideas that we don't agree with, but in terms of being aware that there are perspectives outside of your own. And I think that that's very important as we go through life, because the more interconnected we become, the more important it is to be able to recognize other people who may not, you know, stand on the same plane or see the same perspective as you. It's so important that we connect with one another in that way. So for sure, I think closed-minded people, I know it's very broad to say that, but like in general, I hate closed-mindedness. Let's see. Another thing that I hate are people who are stagnant. And this sort of minds to like a little bit of self-loathing, I guess, where I've always had a dislike when I was unable to grow or when I was unable to change. And it's something that, you know, I'm constantly considering and thinking about, you know, how do we change? What ways can we improve? And like, who do we want to be in the future? These are questions that are very important, at least for me, when it comes to feeling grounded in life, because it's so easy to get, you know, lost thinking, oh, it doesn't matter what's going on. But I like having a space for myself in my mind where I know where I'm going and who I want to be, and like, okay, here are things I can work on. So for sure, that's definitely one thing that I do dislike, or I guess, yeah, I think dislike is a better word than hate. There's not a lot of things that I particularly hate. Now let's see. Next question. How are you feeling right now? To be honest, if you can't tell, I'm super, super nervous. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm trying to be as like candid as possible, or if it's because I'm just anxious in general. Like sometimes when I press record, it's usually a lot easier than this because there's a script to follow and I've got an idea in my mind. Versus like these are just questions that I gotta go through and try and answer, you know? So it's just a little bit different from what I'm used to. So perhaps that's why I'm feeling slightly anxious. Next question. Whew, you guys hit me with some deep ones. Do you appreciate yourself? Let's see. Do I appreciate myself? Okay, so it's not that I can't say yes, just straight up say yes to this question. It's more or less I'm trying to be as genuine as possible as I answer this. So in terms of aspects that I do appreciate about myself, I definitely think that I appreciate it feels so weird complimenting myself and it shouldn't. It absolutely should not. You should be more than able to compliment yourself. You know, don't take my shyness as like an example of how you should be, because that's an area I'm trying to improve on. But I definitely think that I appreciate how open I can be, especially when it comes to this, like YouTube in general. I'm very candid in terms of like ideas that I like to present in my audios or like concepts that I want to explore, because most of the times those are concepts or stories that have some sort of reflection on my experience or my life. Like, for example, my notorious boyfriend which erased his dad video. That was written based off of my own experience, you know? When I was going through high school at the time, it was like very difficult for me to have an idea about like who I am as an individual or my identity. And being an African American, I would always like had to reflect on, okay, what does it even mean to be black? And at the time, there were so many different debates about like what it means to be black. How do you define that? You know, does that include your history? Does that include your culture? And I took a lot of time to dive into myself, you know, exploring these ideas and concepts about, you know, different aspects of history as well as individually, like how has my culture shaped who I am? And so when I wrote that, I was leaning on some experience I had where I had encountered a racist, unfortunately, and it shocked me, to be honest. It threw me off guard. And at that time, I was so scared. I didn't feel powerful. And I wanted to reflect on that experience in another perspective, thinking back on, you know, what I know now, being confident in who I am, you know, what ways can I shape this narrative where I'm empowering myself to respond in the way that I definitely think, of course, should have been not as grandeur as that way. You know, that was a bit of hyperbole in the way that I presented it, obviously, but it's definitely still significant to me to feel empowered to do things like that. So I forgot my main point. No, I didn't. I for sure appreciate the ability to be so candid and share, because I think that's important, especially when you're trying to connect with other people. You know, I'm a believer that the more honest you can be, the easier it is for others to relate to you. And so that's definitely something that I've leaned on. Now, Zodiac sign. Aries. I honestly don't know zodiac signs or their meanings, but yeah, I'm an Aries. So there you guys go. Let's see. Next question. Are we besties? I know exactly who asked this. Of course we're besties. Like, that's obvious. Question next one. Do you need me to make everyone I've ever met sub to your channel? Well, I don't necessarily need you to, but I for sure would appreciate if you could share things that you find interesting or things that you enjoy. Because who knows, maybe like your friends would like it, but it's cool if you don't either way. Because like, y'all are awesome either way. Next one. Most embarrassing moment. You know, the moment I said that, I had one thought come in my mind, and it was so bad. Oh my god, it was so bad. All right, story time. So, in second grade, right, I had just moved to this new town. I had one friend, and he was my neighbor. He's the one who got me into skateboarding. And so friend number one and I were hanging out behind school, first day of school, and we were in the upper grade section we weren't supposed to be in, but because he had friends there, I was just following along with him because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And so essentially, I ended up getting lost in that section because I wasn't supposed to follow the big kids, but I didn't know where back to go. So I ended up following the big kids. And then a teacher was just like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. And I quickly panicked. I turned around and I fell flat on my face, falling down 3 stairs. And it was so bad because I tripped on my own shoelace. And I vividly remember like thinking, oh God, things could not get any worse, because now these other kids are laughing at me because I fell flat on my face. It's the first day of school. I don't know where I'm going. I lost my best friend. Everything's going hectic. It's like, oh, what's gonna go down? That definitely that definitely is an embarrassing moment for me, probably because like I had peak social anxiety even then, and it was so apparent that like things like that were standing out was just such a difficult time and experience for me. So that definitely is one of my most embarrassing moments. Now, next question. If you could have one wish granted, what would it be? No, that's easy. I've always had this one thing that I've always wanted, and it might seem plain to other people, but it's like so amazing if it could happen. My one wish that I could have is that I wish I could understand other people. I'm a strong believer that the better you can understand somebody, the easier it is to communicate. The easier it is to communicate, the easier it is to make change. And I've always aspired to find ways to change perspectives, to flip, constant norms or narratives in ways that might, I guess, lend themselves towards people who aren't as accepted as much, the outsider. That's always been my idea of being able to understand the outsider and communicate in a way that allows the outsider to have a voice, not just from me, but to empower them to have a voice for themselves, So, that's definitely my one wish. I wish I could understand other people such that I can then be able to communicate and facilitate change. Do I like reading? Yeah, I collect a lot of books, a lot of historical text. It might sound nerdy. I love the idea of carrying forward history through books, especially physical books. Because again, you have the time that the books are created, of course, whether 16th, 17th, maybe even 15th century, and to physically have that same book in your hand thinking, oh my God, like what, 400 years ago, another guy had this book in his hand. Like how crazy is that? Like he wrote this 400 years ago? Whoa. I mean, that aspect of books is cool. I enjoy reading books in general. I definitely think that a lot of self-growth, self-improvement has come from being able to read. Not just books, but I like to read manga, manhwa. I'm all over the place. Like I read everything. Sometimes read actual plays, screenplays. Sometimes they're awesome to read through. Let me think. I'm a huge fan of the humanities, if it wasn't apparent. So like all I do is I read a lot. So to answer that question, yeah, I do a lot of reading. Next question. Do you need a hug? Honestly, feeling a bit nervous right now. I would not mind having a hug. I appreciate that virtual hug that you're giving. Thank you very much. Let's see. Next one. Does someone close to you or in real life know about your channel? And what do they think about it? Yes. I have several people in real life who know about my channel. Family members included. Not all of them, but like most of them. So they're very open to the idea of being able to present comfort to people. Being able to entertain in this format. Of course, it's kind of irregular if you were to think about, day to day, most people don't consider the medium of ASMR as a way of communicating, complex ideas, right? Or just comfort in general. But truth is, like, this does help a lot of people. I've seen it, and we're proof of that. This community as a whole is proof of that. So shout out to all you, because this is exactly what it does, and this is why I love doing it so much. Next one. Is there any quote you live by? Any quote I live by? I'm thinking about one particular quote, which is think before you speak. It's one that I'm constantly going back to because it's one that I'm constantly failing at. But nonetheless, it's something that's important to do even when you fail, to like reflect on, okay, how could I have said something better? Or maybe I shouldn't have said that at all. Communication is so important, especially like when you're just trying to connect with people. And for me, as somebody who, has peak anxiety at times and like struggles with just basic interactions, it's important to be able to communicate in ways that that are honest and efficient at, sharing yourself and having people want to share back with you, because like that helps build the bond, and that's very important. So for sure, that's a very important quote. Think before you speak. Best advice you've ever been given. The best advice I've ever been given. No, this one's tough. Let me think. Because there's not really, I mean, it's kind of like the quote, because the quote itself is like advice. Best advice you've ever been given. Oh, they always come back. So, story time. I was young, right? Again, second grade. I have so many second grade stories because childhood be bopping. Anyway, second grade, I had a crush, and my crush did not like me back. It was so apparent. It was obvious. But like everybody in school knew I had this crush. And I wasn't hiding it, but I wasn't as upfront about like letting that person know. And we're little kids, right? So it's like, it's cute little kid stuff. Like, oh my God, he's got a little crush. Didn't know what ideal relationship is or like what it even meant, but still it meant something to me to like somebody. And that's all I understood was I'm attracted to this person. Like, oh, I want to get to know this person more. So anyway, I was having a conversation with one of the lunch ladies, because we were close like that. If you're not close with your lunch ladies, I don't know what you're doing. If you're not close with your janitors, I don't know what you're doing, because those people got your back. Anyway, so we were having a conversation, and I was letting them know, like, hey, I'm not feeling so good. I feel nervous today. I feel like she's angry at me or something like that. I don't know what I did. I didn't make her laugh or something, and I was like really down with myself. And then she looked me dead in the eye, and she's like, I'm gonna tell you something, and you should remember this for the rest of your life. The ones that are meant for you will always come back. Don't worry about anything else. And I was like, maybe that's right. And like so many years later, I still have that conversation in my mind. Not sure if it's the best advice, but like it made me feel a bit more secure about the future, thinking that, okay, the ones who are meant for you will stay there. Like, and whether they're your friends or relationships, if they're meant for you, they will come back to you and you will be together. Because there's nothing that's going to stop that fate from occurring. So that thought in mind always gave me comfort, even back then and even now. So definitely that is one of the best advice I've ever gotten. Let's see. I kind of did a spin on the last question. Let me apologize now, because I know the question was the best advice you've ever given. But still, I definitely think that in itself is advice that I would provide to somebody else. So let's see. Last question. If you had an hour to live, what would you do? To be honest with you, what would I do with an hour left of my life? Oh, I know exactly what I would do. And if you aren't doing this, you're failing. Let me not. I'm not going to superimpose my ideas about life and death on you, but for sure, this is so cool if you could do this. And I'm thinking, like, I always think about death. If you can't tell my videos, I got a lot of stuff about death. Anyway, it's very important, I think, to transpose ideas and meaningful experiences and share it with the next generation. That's just something that I'm all about. I like that idea. So with that in mind, if I had 1 hour to live, there is no doubt in my mind I would spend it creating a playlist for my next generations to listen to get an idea about like who I am and what I enjoyed and like what life was to me. Because music, it transcends so much, especially like music nowadays with our various technologies. Like we can create such intricate and like unique concepts and sounds and like stories just through sound, and it's so cool. So I 100% would create a playlist, and I'd be like, play this at my funeral. In addition, if you miss me, I want you to listen to this. That way you have some sort of idea about who I was and that it's not being forgotten, but it's being continuously passed down. That's not to say that like, those people got to listen to those songs, but I definitely think that it would be important for me to at least have that to exist. So 1000%. That is what I would do with the last hour of my life. So we have reached the conclusion of the Q&A. If you're still here, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. I see you. I appreciate you. I vibe with you. Well respected. Thank you very much. Let me know what you guys think. Honestly, Q&As, just talking candidly is difficult in general, but it's not that I don't enjoy it. I just get a little bit anxious. If it's not so obvious and like the way that I speak, which is clearly different from audios, I am a bit nervous, and that's okay. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be nervous. I'm saying that for myself, by the way. Anyway, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you being here. You have no idea how much this means to me, just being at 10,000 subscribers. Thinking back on it last year, when I started the channel, like I had no goal in mind. I just wanted to express myself. I just wanted to share, some of my feelings and the difficulty I was going through. And to be able to, entertain at the same time. And so to hear that, to hear that 10,000 people resonated with that, it's like mind blowing. And I have no idea what the future holds. Like, who knows? I could end up passing away next week. Hopefully not. Let me not be so pessimistic. But I'm just happy that there's part of me out there that people can come back to, or people can come to understand. Even if not all of my audios are representations of who I am, but a lot of them have components of, things that I think about a lot. And I appreciate each and every one of you for being here throughout this whole experience. So here's to 10,000, and here's to 10,000 more. Thank you very much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.